Another thing that I saw on the news a lot recently was the nuclear issue for some reason. And I'll go through all of those in this video. Most of them, I say like 80% of them have to do with nuclear news. Iran ready to resolve nuclear issue quickly. Iran's speaker has once again reaffirmed the country's right to enrich uranium for peaceful purposes, stressing that Tehran is serious and ready to resolve its nuclear issue in a short period of time. So from Iran's side, I can say we are ready. If the Americans and other countries say that Iran should not develop a nuclear bomb or should not move towards that, then we can clearly show and prove that we have no such intention. So it cannot be resolved in a very short period of time, he stated. Iran will offer to limit its nuclear program. Offer may divide U.S. from rest of the negotiators, which would be what, possibly Israel, from the 8th. According to Western officials familiar with the situation, Iran is expected to bring a package of serious proposals for a permanent settlement of the ongoing nuclear program dispute of the Geneva Conference with the P5+1 next week. So they're willing to talk here. 4 people arrested in Iran accused of trying to sabotage the nuclear site. So kind of like with Syria with the elections, they don't want them to do it. They don't want them to handle it internally, and they have to try to literally sabotage anything that they do. They said that the saboteurs were caught red-handed and are being questioned. So I wonder who those saboteurs could be. Mossad, maybe? The same ones that helped create the Stuxnets that was messing with Iran and their nuclear program as well. Israel holds aerial war game ahead of Iran nuclear talks, so they're holding war games prior to this. They said that they have a special long-range flight exercise in its latest act of provocation against Tehran. And a quick point I wanted to make as far as Iran and Syria go, if Iran is actually going to get rid of some of their nuclear enrichment programs and Syria give up their chemical weapons, do they have some other weapons that are more sophisticated, like I talked about before with the Lebanese media analysis saying that basically they have some kind of, he didn't say what type they were, but they were made specific for them, and he said that they were a big game changer. Some people, I believe the comparison I had heard was that they're basically these telephone pole size chunks of tungsten being used, and going at Mach speeds. That can really have some force behind it. But the point of that is that it doesn't create any kind of nuclear fallout and stuff. It doesn't completely damage the planet. But it also makes me wonder if, like I said before, about these beings, these entities possibly taking off planet here, and now it's just the, quote, powers that be that run the governments that basically used to be their puppets. And if they are gone, they are off planet, they are out of here, they could be trying to handle all of these problems that were created by them in order to control the entire planet. It's a pretty far-fetched theory, but it's I just try to consider all possibilities as far as what's going on behind the scenes. Because one of the biggest things, according to that theory, would be that they created rapid industrialization to create their technology to leave. And so one of the things about nuclear power, and especially Fukushima, was that it's pretty bad stuff for the Earth. It really harms the planet, and you'd want to get rid of that stuff. And then you'd want to go to some type of renewable energy. Whether it's nuclear power or hydrocarbons or the natural gas. These are all things like that have meters on them, things that you can sell in units. And so people are basically dependent on whoever these economic powers that be are. It's pretty self-explanable, I know, but it's like the dollar, money. It's used as a means to control. Brits lose control of nuke reactors. They said unbelievable seriousness of a major radioactive release from October 8th. Says that nearly the exact same scenario played out in England last summer when the primary and secondary power sources for nuclear cooling became inoperable. They say that they were actually warned about it, followed warnings in previous years of such a situation that was just like the BP disaster too. They warned them about the bad ring or whatever. Jellyfish prompt nuclear shutdown. I'm just throwing this in there. This was what's in Sweden? Yeah, Sweden nuclear plant shut down because of these huge jellyfish plague. From yesterday, U.S. and Vietnam signed nuclear technology deal. Allows the U.S. to transfer nuclear technology to the Southeast Asian country. It paves the way for the future U.S. investment in industry, boosting America's strategic presence in the region. So, like I was talking about before, as far as the theory goes, I'm going to keep going with this nuclear issue. But if these puppets were working for some type of other entity or group, I don't think that they're just going to all of a sudden just hand us freedom and you know what I mean? I mean, people have to assume it. They have to just stop participating in the system and let it crumble. Because, like those douchebags like Kerry and all that, they're going to keep going with it, 5.0 earthquake strikes not far from Fukushima, and this was not too long ago. 5.0. And I got this article, I found it after I had all these other ones for Japan, or basically Fukushima and all that ready to go. Reactor's water pump shuts down. The Tokyo Electron, or basically TEPCO, said that the cooling pump that injects water into the one of the damaged reactors at the power plant in Fukushima halted on Monday, possibly due to another problem in the power switchboard. And that was October 7th. Again, October 7th. Fukushima radiation, now a global disaster. Japan finally asked the world for help, but 2 years too late. It was past Sunday, the Prime Minister said, "We are open to receive the most advanced knowledge from overseas to contain the problem." I think the attack, whether it was HARP or bombs, I think Fuller, whatever the hell his name is, he said he blew bombs off near the fault line. Whatever it was, I do think that it was, they do have tsunamis naturally. I think this thing was definitely created. It was a stab at whatever faction of the powers that be are in Japan. I think Stuart Swirlo says the Fourth Reich. They're part of that. So the different wars going on behind the scenes. Nuclear fusion milestone passed at U.S. lab. It's funny too. There's actually that movie called Iron Sky with Nazis that come in from space and attack. Actually, they try to make allies with the current U.S. government. The president, who I think was a female, but then they ended up trying to take over. Nuclear fusion milestone passed at U.S. lab. The researchers at the U.S. lab have passed a crucial milestone on their way to the ultimate goal of achieving self-sustaining nuclear fusion. It says the process that powers the sun could provide an ultimate and cheap source of energy, but you'll be dependent on it probably, right? But to be viable, fusion power plants have to produce more energy than they consume, which has proven elusive. They said here they're going to use 192 beams from the world's most powerful laser to heat and compress a small pellet of hydrogen fuel to the point where the nuclear fusion reaction takes place. The BBC understands that during an experiment in late September, the amount of energy released through the fusion reaction exceeded the amount of energy being absorbed by the fuel. That was the first time it's been achieved in any fusion facility in the world. Western powers want to modernize nukes, and the date for this is October 11th. The world's stockpile of nuclear weapons is a quarter the size of its Cold War peak in the 1980s, but the U.S., Russia, China, France, and Britain are all considering or taking steps to modernize their arms systems. President Obama gave a new impetus to the often halting process of disarmament in 2009 when he set out a vision of a world without nuclear weapons in a speech 3 months into his presidency, which earned him the Nobel Peace Prize of all things. Going back to the conspiracy theory realm, and I hope you don't mind, I just try to tie this in with this. I've often heard of the stage alien invasion. It didn't take place at the Olympics and stuff. And one of the people I was talking about was Stuart Swirlo, and I don't like putting timelines on anything, when it comes to stuff like that, because you don't know. Things are actually happening organically behind the scenes, even though it is an agenda being taken place. But like I said, I always put that as a disclaimer. I don't agree with everything he says, but he talks about a false flag alien invasion, and then he says that after that a real alien invasion would take place. I've never heard him say that until recently in the last month in one of his videos I've seen him in. He's usually just a stage alien invasion, but he was actually in a real one after that. And if there was going to be a real one, what better way to do it than to disarm, right, with one of the weapons that you have. And it's just another reason why you why you wouldn't want to really trust any of these leaders in these big powers such as Russia, the U.S., and Europe and all that. But if you think I'm joking, like I said, I just covered this before. October 4th, Russian military actually said that their space troops are not ready to fight an alien invasion. Russia test fires nuclear-capable missile, and this is from October 11th. They said it successfully fired a nuclear-capable RS-12M Topol missile in the nation's southern region as part of what it describes as a series of tests of new combat equipment. Of course, they have directed energy weapons with lasers. They have the same technology. They actually look like these things right here. I mean, I know those are like for missiles and stuff, but they got those same kind of tracked trucks. The U.S. has the same type program. So this thing was an intercontinental ballistic missile, or ICBM. Something else I found interesting with these firings of all these heads in the military. Did you notice that? I covered it before in one video. Pentagon's No.2 official stepping down. The Deputy Defense Secretary stepping down. So he's decided to leave the department on December 6th. You know, you see in like movies and shows and dramas about how they're actually blackmailed to stepping down, right? If they don't do something or whatever. You go out there in the media and give the public a completely different story from what really happened. U.S. general in charge of nuclear missiles has been fired. A 2-star general in the Air Force nuclear intercontinental missiles was fired on Friday due to personal misbehavior. The second firing this week of a senior commander of nuclear forces. Friday, October 11th. Responsible for 450 ICBMs at 3 bases. They said that it was a loss of trust and confidence. Maybe he wasn't going to fire on somebody that they wanted him to. Russians are more negative about the West, says a poll. The number of Russians regarding the U.S. generally badly rose to 36% this year, up from 31% last year and just 12% in 1997. A further 13% said this year that they regard the U.S. very badly. Russia is deploying offensive military vehicles in territories around the Caspian and Black Sea. Russia has been rapidly arming the southern military district since the war with Georgia in 2008. They got all kinds of stuff, 450 modernized military vehicles, self-propelled artillery systems, armored, and goes on and on and on. North Korea says that U.S. joint naval drills is a serious military provocation, and it is. It's funny, though, because the U.S. always says North Korea is provocating, but you know, like we covered before, I think it was Kim Jong-un or whatever one it was. I know it's Un now. Was educated in like UK, so you can't trust them anyways, right? Either, none of them. But anyways, the spokesman signaled an increase in the threats of nuclear war against us and the completion of plans for a preemptive nuclear strike. Interesting, given all the articles that are coming out now. The secret government bunker hidden under a luxury hotel stocked with 30 years of supplies to keep America's most influential alive in a nuclear fallout. Will you be part of the influential going in here? Probably not. Would you really want to be locked up or holed up with a bunch of assholes like that and then survive? Or even if you did survive with a bunch of a-holes like that? Pardon my French. Russian warheads fuel half of the U.S. nuclear power, says an official. The decommissioned Russian warheads are fueling half of the nuclear energy in the U.S., as a senior U.S. State Department official. Someone sent me this. Disney researchers harvest energy from rubbing and tapping paper-like material and electric current sufficient to light a string of LEDs. And basically it's to light sheets of plastic. That was something that was created recently by scientists, basically with electrodes in them. Yeah, Disney with an engineering department, R&D. GE and AT&T partner to make engines, trains, and turbines cellular capable. So like they say, what could possibly go wrong, right? Also, all part of a larger plan to live out the events of the Terminator franchise. And just, you know, keep an eye on stuff that's going on in Central Asia for the resources and cheap labor. Also, India, China's, Pakistan's conflict and tension. But militants assassinate army colonel in East Yemen. So more stuff popping off in Yemen. Remember what I was talking about sending Al-Qaeda where people are trying to rebel from the central government? Most likely an Al-Qaeda terrorist proxy force suicide bomber, killed 3 members of the Southern, basically independence movement. The Southern question has been a major stumbling block in Yemen national dialogue, the Southern movement demanding secession and boycotting the talks. That's why they say stuff like this. The tribes still rule in Yemen, right? They still have power, so let's bomb them.